Hello friends, and welcome to Figure Study, where we appreciate the form in Transformers. Last time we went over the entire Power of the Primes Dinobot team, so there's nothing left to do this time except get into the Combine mode. Just a quick recap in case you missed the last video or don't want to watch it and you want the Cliffs Notes version. Swoop is awesome, Grimlock's robot mode is cool, but his Dino mode is disappointing, Slash is the best, Sludge is okay, not terrible, not bad, but also not great. Snarl is pretty good, with a couple of problems in robot mode, like proportionally. And I f***ing hate Slug. So that's where we're at. Now, let's get the team into their Combine mode. Now, they are Scramble City style, just like Combiner Wars, where each of the deluxes can be either a leg or an arm, but I'm going to be going into the sort of default Combine mode. We're going to have Sludge and Snarl as legs, and then Slug and Swoop are going to be arms. And it's all going to be like the default transformations, because I got things to say about that default Gestalt. So I guess it's time for me to get this microphone out of my face and start transforming stuff. And here we have Power of the Primes Volcanicus in Combine mode. I was excited about this figure when they announced it. I was super into the idea of an official Dinobot combiner. I wasn't expecting anything to look quite as amazing or be the same size of Shuriking or anything like that, but I thought it would look better than this. Because if I'm being honest with myself, Volcanicus is kind of not good looking. There are a few small things about this that don't work for me, but the main thing is his proportions. He's got these really reasonably thick legs, which aren't necessarily bad in and of themselves. The arms also not necessarily bad, but he's got this super tiny waist, and his torso just comes out so far. And again, I was excited about the prospect at first, but once I managed to get this guy together fully, it was kind of like, this doesn't look all that good. And what sucks even more is Slash doesn't do anything. She has no function, none whatsoever. She doesn't even turn into a weapon for Volcanicus. It's kind of sad. Like, why add a sixth member to the team and make the team a freaking combiner and not include the sixth member of the team in the combination? But anyway, yeah, Combine mode is something of a disappointment. There is some stuff that works for me here, which I will get into later, but those shoulders are so far apart, and like the tiny waist, and and like the arms, the tiny T-Rex arms just sticking off the top there. It's Coming in for a closer look, another thing that really bugs me about this combination is right in here, the chest. The dinosaur mode head sticking out doesn't bother me as much as I thought it would, because it doesn't stick out too terribly far, unless you put the Enigma of Combination in it, and then you've got to have it sticking forward like this, and that's a bit too much. Though while we're doing this, let's plug the Enigma in there so you can see, like, from the front, it's not a terrible addition, but then as you start to turn it, it's like, no, that's just dumb. But yeah, the other problem is these gaps right here. It's just not... Why did they do that? I mean, I know why they did it, because that's where the hinges go when it goes into dinosaur mode, but that doesn't look good. I really wish there was something to cover those up. Technically there is, but we're going to get into that in a minute. But yeah, just the default, not looking good. And these just stick out so far, and like, I like the ideas here. I think making these visually interesting Grimlock shoulder bits or T-Rex thigh bits into chest decoration is not a bad idea. It's just they're so far out. Like, if they were in closer, it would work better, and then also the arms would be in closer, but then that leads to a whole host of other problems. And while we're at it, Snarl makes a crap leg. That is just ridiculous. Having the tail flared out like that, that's dumb. He's going to trip over himself. He's going to trip over his own knee. That is stupid. And I don't mind asymmetry. I really don't. But that's not good asymmetry. That is just ridiculous. I thought I would be bothered by Sludge's head sticking out, but all things considered, it's kind of a small price to pay with some of the other stuff that's going on here. But I am just not into this combine mode. And I hate to say it, because I was really looking forward to getting this team together and turning them into a combiner, but this is a big disappointment. At least, that's what I would be saying if Volcanicus wasn't ripe for fan moding. So, I'm going to make some tweaks, and then we'll start talking about that. Here we have Volcanicus with a bit of fan moding, and I think this looks so much better. This, I don't feel bad about having. And it's incredible how just fan moding has taken him from something that I was super disappointed about to something I'm super excited about. And now I'm not tooting my own horn here, because most of the fan moding that's going on here is stuff that other people have done. I've just seen other people's experimentations on Twitter and TFW and stuff like that, and I've kind of assimilated that into my own hodgepodge of things. And yeah, this looks so much better to me. I mean, right off the bat, having Snarl with his tail back in one piece works so much better. It's still asymmetrical, but now that asymmetry is from the plates going further up the leg, and that looks a lot better and makes him look a lot less accident prone than having the tail split and just kind of going out like that. The thighs have been rotated to make his thighs a little bit slimmer, which also narrows in his waist a little bit, but I think that actually works because now instead of this really weird cartoonish hourglass shape, his body kind of goes like this and then like this. So it's much more natural. It's not quite as that and then that. Yeah, this is much more acceptable. And of course, there's using the extra prime armor fists for torso fillers. I'm not entirely sure if that's an official thing or not, but it definitely helps in this case. Not just to fill it in, but by turning the thumbs up. Actually, let me bring it in closer here. By turning the thumbs up, it kind of brings that element more into the chest and masks the holes a little bit more. They're still there, and you can still see them if you're looking for them, but now they're not the first thing that my eye gets drawn to, which is definitely a good thing. And having the T-Rex arms folded back, I think, works a lot better, because now they more look like just like piping detail, and not goofy T-Rex arms sticking out of nowhere, because that really bugged me. Another thing that was done with the arms, or not the arms, but the hands, is this is a thing that I messed around with myself and saw some other people also commenting on, and yeah, I think this works a lot better to get rid of that double thumb effect, because now, when you've got the fist turned, you only really see the one thumb. The other one's still there, but like it's kind of tucked back and hidden along the palm, so like you don't have to pull the thumb off to hide it. You don't have to do anything else kind of weird. That hides it so much better, because I did not like that double thumb look. And now getting to Slash, she is unceremoniously just kind of slapped on the back there, but she does have a purpose. And this idea is one that I got from Volcanicus, I believe, on Twitter. I don't know who came up with the idea for using Slash like this, but I did get the idea from him. What she's doing is her hands are plugged into the pegs on Grimlock's legs, and she is keeping these mostly in place. I mean, they're not locked in as solidly as they were in the official transformation, because all three different locking points for the shoulders are completely unlocked. So basically it's a combination of Slash gripping onto those pegs, and the inner thumbs of the filler pieces here are pointed up as a way to kind of bear the weight of some of the plastic that's pushing down on them. And that sort of keeps this whole assembly together. And what's interesting is it not only works to bring the torso in a bit and make it still look bulky, but not as absurdly pronounced, but like, this is actually a pretty interesting looking back. The way it all kind of comes together, you've got just like this interesting kind of design here, and then like a tiny dinosaur tail that actually kind of works as like a design element for a dinosaur combiner. And then these little golden bits for Slash's shoulders almost look like turbines or something coming out of the back. It's surprisingly effective. And having her legs coming up like that almost make it look like he has some kind of like pronounced bodybuilder neck muscles or something in the back there. I think it works pretty darn well for what it is. Notice I said for what it is, because, I mean, this thing's definitely not perfect. So, pulling back out again, just to go over some more stuff. I didn't want to go over it in the default mode, because this is all stuff that hasn't changed, but some of the things that kind of disappoint me are, first of all, Swoop, I think, makes a really nice shoulder with the wings coming out like that. The problem that I have is the forearm section. It's not bad from this angle, but from other angles it's much narrower, and you've got that big old gap right above the fist. But the thing is, he doesn't make a very good leg, because as a leg he's basically like a plank. He just doesn't fit in with any of the other Dinobots as a leg either. Though I do have to say, I didn't say this in the last video, but I do absolutely appreciate the fact that Swoop has completely unique engineering to his legs, specifically so that he can become a leg in combine mode. That's honestly kind of admirable. Just that they would include completely unique engineering specifically just for a limb. Because, I mean, you know, it's Hasbro. They like to have a joint have like 6 uses. But anyway, Swoop as an arm works. It's just that forearm is a little bit eh. I'm not super crazy about Slug as anything. He's an okay leg, he's an okay arm, but eh. Sludge's head sticking out is a little bit annoying, but with all this going on, it doesn't really bother me. And I'm not a fan of the double thumb thing, but, you know, there is a remedy for that, obviously. The only other thing that really bugs me about the Gestalt mode is the fact that the feet are really tiny. I mean, even in his default mode, it's noticeable, but here, the proportions for the rest of the Gestalt are definitely much nicer. But then you've got these teeny tiny feet. He's this enormous, really intimidating looking combiner with tiny feet. But before I forget, I actually wanted to go over the Enigma and weapons for the Dinobots because they can be stored on here. So I'm going to show you what I do with those just to get them out of the way so that everything's all self-contained here. So for the Enigma, because it's pointless and stupid and I hate it, basically I just jam it in one of the feet because I don't like putting it in the chest and it doesn't really work on the backs of the fists. So, come here, Sludge. I'm just going to borrow this for a second. And y'all probably know how this works at this point. You just plug that in, and there we go. And now it's something that I never have to think about again. But we're not done with Sludge yet. We still have Sludge and Slug's rifles, which are the same rifle. And these, they're actually two holes right back here on Sludge that these fit into very nicely. And you can kind of put them at a slight angle so that they kind of go around the calf here, and that leaves room for the knee to bend, but it also gets them out of the way. Coming up to Swoop, we have his sword, and there's a tiny peg on the back of the sword there, and a tiny hole on the underside of his mouth. And what you can actually do is if you line it up right, kind of get this in there, the sword handle will actually go through here, and then push it up, and it kind of lines itself up, and there you go. You really can't even tell that the sword is there. That hides it quite well, because it kind of hides within the folds of the wings. Lastly, there's Snarl's pointlessly clear sword, and that is a kind of a rectangular peg right there. It's more of a tab, really, but it does fit into regular peg holes. So it can sit inside Slug like that, but my preferred thing is to actually attach it to his forearm. And if we turn him like that, see there's a hole there, and you can peg it in there. So that way he can have like a tiny forearm blade, or you can sweep it back just to kind of get it out of the way. And that is how I make the weapons and Enigma just go away so I don't have to think about them ever again. Oh, but I have not looked at his head yet, so here we've got Volcanicus's combiner head, and I really like this combiner head. This thing looks so cool. It's like an interesting Grimlock-ish design. Actually has, it's hard to tell, but it does have the teeth kind of molded in there. But I like how they added a bit more color to it. I mean, the shape is different, which we will get into, but like there's that silver on the chin and the gold for the head crest, and that looks really cool. The rest of it, it almost looks kind of samurai-ish, but not exactly. It seems like the overall basic shape is somewhat akin to a samurai helmet, but I don't think that was actually their intention. But what's interesting about this combiner head, aside from it just looking flippin' awesome, is the fact that if you look closely, it looks like Grimlock's head with a helmet on top of it. The face that's in there is totally Grimlock's face. It's just like he's got this helmet on top now. That's a pretty cool idea. So it's a really cool looking head sculpt that also still totally looks like Grimlock. And now that all that talking about how freaking awesome Volcanicus looks is out of the way, it's time for some size comparisons. So, there we've got Volcanicus with a typical Power of the Primes Deluxe, and I mean, he's a combiner. Definitely a combiner. He is a combiner that is... Actually, let me readjust here a sec. So this is interesting. He is pretty much exactly as tall as Victorion here. But what's interesting about that is he's got the dinky Power of the Primes combiner feet, and she's got the much larger Perfect Effect upgrade feet. So without the upgrades, I'm pretty sure he would be a little bit taller. So I guess for whatever reason, the Power of the Primes combiners are actually somehow a little bit taller than Combiner Wars combiners. Also, these two look really awesome sitting on a shelf next to each other. And since I can actually do it, we go with a leader class Power of the Primes figure. And, you know, again, combiner. And he's big. Although there are still bigger combiners out there. Let's lift this up a sec so you can see he comes up to Devastator's waist. So he's big, and I mean, being a combiner, of course he's big, but he ain't that big. And as you might have guessed, with that size comparison, the look at Volcanicus is now complete. For now. Because, of course, I'm getting an upgrade kit for him. But, ignoring the feet, I feel like he actually looks pretty freaking awesome as he is. Like, if there were no upgrade kits for this guy, I'd still be happy with what I got. It does take some work to get him there, but with just a few tweaks, he looks really nice. Anyway, that is going to do it. That has been Power of the Primes Volcanicus. Disappointed though I may have been at first when I got him together, I am super into him now. But you've all heard enough from me. I want to hear from you. What do you all think of Volcanicus here? For anyone who has the set, are you okay with the default mode, or have you started fan moding stuff yourself? And if you have started fan moding stuff, what's some of the stuff that you like to do? Because I have to say, for whatever reason, Volcanicus actually lends himself pretty well to fan moding. And regardless of fan moding, do you have a preferred setup for the limbs? And I know I've still got them kind of in the default spot, but does anyone out there prefer to have Sludge and or Snarl as an arm? Or Swoop and or Slug as a leg? And in terms of upgrade kits, if you do have Volcanicus, are you interested in upgrade kits? And if you are, which ones are you looking at? Because as of now, I think the only ones that are available are the hands and feet from Perfect Effect, the torso and other miscellaneous bits from Perfect Effect, and then the Transform Dreamwave set that kind of covers the hands, the feet, the torso, and all that. Whatever your thoughts, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I do enjoy hearing from you all. And while you're at it, also feel free to like or subscribe. Any of those three things would make me a happy Rob. And remember, art is more than meets the eye, even if you gotta take matters into your own hands sometimes.